My guests today are writer-director Jonathan Hammond and actor-producer Martin Spangers and their short film, Fireflies in the Dusk. Now, Jonathan Hammond is a three-time Emmy-nominated writer-director, and he is the co-recipient of the grants from the National Endowment for the Arts, the Joan B. Kroc Institute for Justice and Peace, and two KPBS Explorer grants. Now, he has also won the Best Writing Award at the 2016 San Diego International Fringe Festival, and his work was selected for this prestigious New Playwrights Festival at the Old Globe Theater in San Diego, and has won dozens of awards for his filmmaking. Now, Martin Spangers got his start as an actor in television, film, and theater at the age of 7, and his credits include over, get this, 120 episodes of television for Max, Disney, and all the major networks. Notably, he played John Ritter's son for 3 seasons on the hit sitcom 8 Simple Rules on ABC, and recently he's embraced the other side of the camera, and as a producer, his work has been selected by and won awards at the biggest film festivals in the world, including Tribeca and Toronto. Now, Martin is currently developing multiple projects, including a feature-length documentary and the true crime dark comedy, which I cannot wait to see, by the way. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome writer-director Jonathan Hammond and producer Martin Spangers and their comedy short, Fireflies in the Dusk, to the show. Welcome, gentlemen.
Right, thank you for having us.
Well, you're very welcome. Well, I will say this. Fireflies in the Dusk caught me by surprise. Now, I'm looking at the film poster, and I was expecting Pride and Prejudice, but I got somewhat of a comedy with a dark twist. So, Jonathan, where did you come up with the idea for Fireflies in the Dusk?
You know, you just mentioned Pride and Prejudice, and I remember like 20 years ago. In fact, the Joe Wright version is having a re-release this week, and I already bought my tickets for Friday night. But I went to go see it with a friend. And I majored in English literature, and I was thinking, do we need another Pride and Prejudice movie? There's so many and so many really good ones. And halfway through it, I realized that, yeah, we did, because it was so cinematic and lush. But I still couldn't help being contrarian. And I leaned over and I said, you know, if these people were real, they don't look like that. They smell. And their teeth are not white. So that's sort of like how we perceive people from the Victorian era through modern cinema, through what it really was, had just kind of lingered with me. And at the same time, growing up, my mother's one of her favorite films was Somewhere in Time, and she made me watch it ad nauseum. So I don't know, my imagination just ran wild, and what you see is what it came up with. And then there's another movie called The Purple Rose of Cairo, and it's one of my favorite movies. And it also has the same sort of tone where you have the Jeff Daniels character jump out of the movie screen into real life. And the usher screams, "I'll get the manager." And it's just that sort of almost nonchalant tone to like the most insane thing happening. It just cracks me up, and I just... It just kind of solidified the movie. And then, you know, I'm like, well, from there, where can we go, and what would be honest about it, and how can I make it resonant? Which is why it kind of has the turn it does.
Well, you know, it's funny. You bring up Somewhere in Time, which I don't even know the last filmmaker I ever talked to that actually brought that film up. It is a classic. I mean, it's one of my wife's favorite films, and I think it came out, that film's got to be close to 40 years old.
It came out in 1980, yeah.
Yeah, and so, and to think back that even then, filmmakers were looking at how do we combine modern day with the Victorian era, but you really bring it into the area of comedy, which I really loved. And we're going to get into that. But I want to ask you, Martin, what intrigued you about Fireflies in the Dusk that you wanted to produce it?
So Jonathan and I had met at a film festival. Actually, it's called Cordillera, and it's a great festival. And yeah, we just hit it off and started talking. And afterwards, he sent me this script, and it's pretty rare to read a script and like actually laugh out loud throughout. Um, and that's usually a pretty like clear sign when I want to do something, when I want to like help make something. Yeah, I got on the phone with Jonathan and his writing partner Ryan Roach right away and talked about it. Just kind of wanted to, hear out their vision a little bit more, make sure like what I was reading was what they were thinking of doing, because like tonally, when you read something, things can go a lot of different directions. And the fact that Jonathan wanted to ground it in this reality where like people coming through portals, out of a credenza, is a normal thing, or out of a fridge. It's common in this world, and so like that tone really like spoke to me when I was reading it, and it was it was just it hit every
Well,
note. We were on the same page.
that was a thing that I appreciated because it wasn't just one occurrence of traveling through this portal. It had happened before, which is where the therapist brought it up. And I'm like, okay, this makes it even better because it means both worlds are the modern day world connected to various eras of the past, uh, was normalized. Which so
Yeah.
that was to me that was like the one of the coolest parts of this film, and it just wasn't like this one and done situation because uh, even when Charlotte ends up in modern time, the other people around Zach, nobody was really surprised. It was just like, oh, okay, here's another one, and I'm like, I'm surprised that you could even contain the idea into a short film because I'm looking at this going, this is a streaming series. I want to see more. I want because it literally just writes itself, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, and it was I we wrote it very quickly. It was very easy to write, and like once you had the rules, I guess, and it was really really fun to write. In fact, we kept sometimes you have to do revisions and polish it, and we couldn't wait to do that. We couldn't wait to just keep writing more. Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
let me
it
ask
was
you,
a ball.
Martin, because as a producer, were there any challenges in getting this film made?
I mean, it was a big production. There were a lot of different locations. We utilized one location for multiple locations, where you saw the offices. That was also the therapist office. We also used it as our production designer Marie Jack actually, used that facility as well to do Drew and Hale's apartment. That's Drew Droege and Hale Appleman. But yeah, we kind of just made it work by utilizing that space as multiple locations. But we had even beach locations. There was kind of everything. So I was excited about the challenge, because it was a big idea, and as you said, like this feels like a series, and that was what my response was when I first read it. I was like, oh well, this is a show. There's more to this, and talking with Jonathan and Ryan about that, it's kind of as we've discussed, it's kind of like a Black Mirror esque, but like dark comedy where you can do these different episodes that spin off from this.
Well, who created the idea of the look? Because, Martin, you come from a background of being in numerous sitcoms, and this short has that look to it. Was that done on purpose to either
I'll
one
let
of you?
Jonathan, if you want to take that, your
Uh,
collaboration process with Elle.
well, you were there. The look was I gave her. I mean, one of the movies that we're referencing is A Room with a View. So I said basically I want it to look like A Room with a View. I love the composition in that movie, and there was some discussion going back and forth whether or not the like the Victorian or old-timey world will contrast with the modern world, and we decided that no, that wouldn't work, because there is a tonal shift, and that's the only time that any sort of look should change. So I don't know if we really tried to make it look like a sitcom, but we did have a point of reference, which was a Merchant Ivory film, basically.
Yeah. And when I say sitcom, I mean that as a compliment because
Right.
so many of these Victorian style, like Pride and Prejudice, and the list goes on and on, Bridgerton, they always come across with that very heavy cinematic, dramatic camera look to them in the cinematography. I like this one because it's a comedy. The look and the comedy flow extremely well together in this film. So it works. Now I have a question, and this can be for either one of you, but probably for Jonathan. Why did you want the past and the present to be normalized than just a shock to the characters outside of Charlotte and Zachary?
Why did we want it to be normalized for them, the characters outside? I think that really comes from the Purple Rose of Cairo, where when he jumped out of the screen and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh," and then people just sort of like sit and watch, and then they have to call the agent. It's just that just cracked me up. That's 100% why. And there was some conversation with her. I'm like, should we do this? Is this like a little too silly? So we had that shot of Drew Drogi going, "Ugh," and when he like throws his arms up, and I'm like, I don't like we'll have that. I don't know if we'll keep it, but let's keep it. It's just too funny and too silly to not do. Yeah. And then from there, anytime you do comedy, you sort of yes ands, and so that led us to the therapist. Like also, she had experienced something similar, so I think that's why. Just more for like humorous purposes.
Well, what was funny about the therapist is that her story is, she's telling that, she hooked up with one of Jesus's disciples. And of all the disciples, it was Nathaniel, the one that nobody ever remembers. And I thought, that is so cool. And it was so funny. But her demeanor, what made it so funny was she was literally bragging about it to Charlotte Zachary. And so when I saw that one scene with her explaining all of this, I was like, oh, this just makes it so much better because you brought in somebody else who's already experienced someone from the past into the present. And to me, that right there, that scene was just gold.
Thank you.
Susie Nakamura. Susie Nakamura is the actress there, and she's a genius. I had worked with her when I was 13 years old, and we were going through people and who to play, and I'd mentioned her to Jonathan, and obviously getting someone like that in this role was like any chance you get for her to work with her is a golden opportunity, and we jumped at it, sent it to her, and she loved it, so great to have her in.
Well, so who was more responsible for casting? Was it you, Martin?
Oh, it was a collaboration, really. I mean, Jonathan had brought in Drew Drogi, I brought in Susie Nakamura and Amy Yazbek and Hale Appleman, Jade Catapretta. And then Jonathan had met Emily Goss, the lead, at the same festival that we met at, Cordillera. And so I'd sent her the script. Jonathan, if you want to talk about that, realization moment, that's a fun little story.
Yeah, well, the script had actually been written like 7 or 8 years ago, and we had written it with an actor friend of mine in mind, and she moved to Norway. So I'm like, I guess we started to make this, and I kind of went through a little bit of a dark period, and my writing partner Ryan Roach was really, really pushing for this one to be made. We have like 10 scripts, and I'm like, I don't know, it's just so silly. Let me think about it. I was just going back and forth, and we went to Cordillera, and there was another movie that I'd seen called 30 Days, 30 Meetings at another festival. and it's an incredible movie. I think it should have been nominated, and it had this bravura performance by Emily Goss in it. Nothing about that performance made me think this is Charlotte at all. It's a very heavy part. And then I saw the filmmaker at Cordillera, and he's like, "Oh, Emily's here. I know you really liked your work. You should go say hi." And I did. And within about 10 seconds of meeting her, I'm like, this is Charlotte. Oh my God. And I'm like, and I think I kind of freaked her out. I'm like, "You're going to be in something." And just, and she's like, "Oh, okay." And then Ryan, my co-writer, was coming to the same festival the next day. And I'm like, "Go talk to that girl and tell me what you think." And he walked back. He's like, "That's Charlotte." I'm like, I know. So then, so we gave her the script, and she's like, "This is crazy. I'm in."
Well,
So,
I loved Charlotte. She
she's
never
a star.
wavered from who she was, and she never, and here's what was so funny, she never embraced the modern time. She was just trying to embrace Zachary, and that was it. And the fact that she never changed her clothes, because Cecil did, but she never did. And I actually went back because I watched the film 3 times. I went back and I'm like, okay, let me just follow Charlotte and let me just watch her and see if her hair. I used her hair as an example. Does it become a little bit more frazzled as the film moves along? And it was just enough to where I'm like, she never changed. She even slept in her clothes, and I thought that was so funny. So you're right. You couldn't have picked anybody else to
No.
play Charlotte. But I've got a
No.
question about Zachary. Why did you create his character to be so immature? Almost, it reminds me of the film with Nicolas Cage, Valley Girl, where there's this
Yeah.
Valley Girl type esque to his character, to where he looks like Ken the Barbie doll, and he has the same brain capacity as Ken in the box. So
It's a good
why did
comparison.
you make him so aloof?
It's funny you mentioned Valley Girl because that's one of the inspirations for this movie. Even it's particularly the montage scene with her on the phone. I just thought that would be like a funny contrast. And when we were writing it, we just had it was just like we knew he would have to be a contrast to her, and we weren't. I mean, we just wrote it. It wasn't. I mean, it's just short, so we didn't have to outline or anything. That's just what came out. And then it was like his voice. The movie knew what he needed to be when we were writing it, and his voice just like asserted itself into our brains. Yo, what's up, Charlotte? Like that just we thought that would be funny. And then again, we were just like, maybe it's too much, maybe we have to pull back. But we didn't, and I'm, it informs what the rest of the movie was going to be and what his character is going to be. I just think that character really just was in the ether
Well,
and came across who he was.
you blow the whole stereotype out of the water, which is great because it makes this film stand alone. Because when I'm thinking about what was that film with Patrick Dempsey, he was like, I guess a prince, and he comes into modern day. But all of those films are the same.
Oh,
The
the
man
Enchanted.
is the knight in shining armor. He's always perfect in every way. And it's the female that plays the lesser role. But here it's completely turned around because the moment that Zach opened up his mouth in the first scene, I went, oh my gosh. I'm like, this is not what I was expecting. But it was so funny because it was so far out of the box that it makes you pay attention to the whole film. So very well done. And I thought one of the funny parts was when Charlotte meets Zachary, and he mentions that he has an apartment, that he has a roommate, and she's like, "Oh, you're a boarder," and I was like, "Oh, so so she's coming from nobility, but in her eyes, love trumps wealth. And so that's what made this even better because she thought, okay, I'll be a peasant, because Zach is my knight in shining armor. So you
There's
completely
nothing more
dismantle.
romantic than that.
Well, yeah, and you completely dismantled Pride and Prejudice, and you threw Downton Abbey out the window. So
Yeah, yeah.
I love that.
There's also a sense of like I'm better than him, and I'm going to fix him. You know.
Well, see, that was the other thing about Charlotte that made this even funnier. She comes into his modern modern time, but she's the one, like you just said. I'm okay because she didn't really know him except through the letters,
Right.
and I'm like, so I'm still trying to figure out what her mindset was by reading his letters because he wrote his letters like he talked, which made it really funny. And so, but like you said, she came in to fix him, and I was like, oh, I want. We need to see sequels to this short. I need to see filmmakers actually create sequels to their shorts because sometimes you just want more of it, and this is one of those films. But for both of you, you have got to tell me about Cecil because he is a scene stealer.
1000%. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, the
Yeah.
character's inspired from there's a character named Cecil Weiss in A Room with a View, and that it was in the movie. It was played by Daniel Day Lewis, and he also is very prissy and he steals that movie as well. But that was really my only direction to Hale was it's don't play, don't imitate, but like you're playing Cecil Weiss from Northern Review, and he knew exactly, and then he's like, we were debating whether or not because it's also based on Edith Wharton, like I mean, do we want to make them like American turn of century Americans, the Gilded Age, or British, which would probably be more appropriate, but they're all American actors. And then he goes, "Well, here's my Cecil Weiss in as a British person," and I'm like, "Oh, the movie's British. That's what it is." Like
Well,
he fucking
so
nailed it.
I'm kind of curious on what his audition tape looked like.
Oh no, we didn't audition him. He's a star, so we were just happy to have him. So, Martin, do you want to say how we got? He was your friend.
Yeah, I've been friends with Hale for a while, and I just had never worked with him, but always just loved his work. And reached out to him as a friend, be like, "Hey, I'm doing this, and we think you would just be the perfect Cecil. Let us know if you're interested, if you respond to it, kind of thing." And he loved it. Yeah, had a call with Jonathan then, just to similar, with my initial call with Jonathan, just wanted to kind of understand what he was thinking tonally and make sure, it was the same, idea that he had read. And yeah, we all kind of clicked on that, on the tone, and yeah, I mean, just watching him, we did a lot of rehearsals, and that was, Jonathan pushed hard for that, getting everybody in the same room ahead of time to kind of read through and have everyone on the same page as far as, what their job was essentially, in this story, and make sure everyone was on the same, beats. And so, having that group together in the same room ahead of time, I think was really beneficial for shooting because, we weren't figuring it out on the day. So it was great to kind of, be on the same page.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
would have to bring everybody in for table reads because this is a large cast for a short film. Most short films you're lucky if you see two or three, no more than four people in the film. This one, you got a quite a large cast, but here's the coolest thing about that cast. Every single actor bringing forth their character made that character stand on its own.
no,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
we were very
yeah.
lucky with the cast, and timing is everything. Anything could have happened with one of those people getting a bigger job than a short film.
Yeah.
So we got really really lucky with timing, that we got the cast that we did.
We got lucky with the timing, got lucky with the cast, and everyone, when I wrote the Martin character, I had Drew Droege in mind. I didn't really know him, and I just emailed him and like, I really love your work. What do you think? And he had seen my previous film, and he was like, yeah, he was in. So like everyone they just all knew how to stand out, and they knew how to like work as an ensemble and have their character bounce off the other characters. It was truly one of the most fun times of my life. Like just watching this, there was
You,
very little direction needed. The only thing I had to do was in the rehearsals make sure we're on the same page,
oh
and then let them
wow,
go. Yeah,
that is incredible. Now, when I watch Cecil's character, you have to watch him closely at the beginning because he slowly gives away his companionship preference. And I love the way that it was done because it was so funny. Because when Cecil, the mother, and Charlotte are sitting at the table and she's trying to get Charlotte married off, and they're talking about this older man who seems to be, I guess, kind of on the mean side, so to speak. And then she's like, well, you're an old maid, so why don't you and Cecil get married? But it was Cecil that was so funny because he goes, my countenance does not provoke lust in my heart. And Charlie goes, I know. Then I went, oh, but wait a minute, that was at the picnic. But still, what was
yeah.
funny is at the table, his first thought was, oh, we're gonna get married. What are I've got to start laying out the design of the stationery and what am I going to wear? And I was like, right then and there, I was like, oh, I want to see where this is gonna go. Yeah. So I mean that, like I said, every character in this film stands by themselves, and it's almost like I was sitting there going, I I want to see this as a streaming series because I want to see the character development with these characters. I want to know what their backstories are because you've got a dozen stories sitting in the background of this short film, and that's not easy to do. So this was brilliant.
I think that's
Thank
a
you very
testament.
much.
Yeah, it's a testament to Jonathan and Ryan, and why everyone responded so well to the script, because each character really is, developed really well in this pilot, if you want to call it that, right? If it's going to go
Yeah.
on to be a show, there's a lot of development with each character. There's a little arc for each character, and so approaching people about the script to see if they wanted to do it, was relatively easy because the script speaks for itself and the characters speak for themselves, and like really it's easy for these actors to connect to them and see themselves portraying them, and really dig their teeth into. Amy Yazbek, a legend and such a hilarious person in general. Having her on board was really a treat, and she's so funny in it as well. The whole cast.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you bring these tiny little elements of the past, and you bring the past into modern day. You didn't bring modern day into the past because it makes it funnier with the past in modern day because it's like Charlotte. She's not going to know what a smartphone is. You didn't put her in situations of in front of a TV, which like I said, there's so many more stories to tell here. But what was funny with Charlotte, though, even though her mother was still in the past, she still was trying to make Zach into a man in which she could bring to her mother and still seek that approval. There was that underlying tone in the film, wasn't there?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. She was definitely. I mean, we didn't want her to be sort of a nag, but there was definitely that like I'm in love with you for whatever reason, but also I have to you know fix you and shape you into being the man that I need you to be. And I have very strong ideas of what chivalry in a man needs to be, and I'm trying to carve that. And what is right and wrong is my values are very Victorian, but I'm living in the modern era now. So that I think, I mean, if the movie really is about anything, it's sort of, examining, romanticizing the past, which is, nostalgia. That's fine, but there is a lot of talk about bringing things that we thought we'd fixed, we were past, bringing them back into the modern era, and that's a little dangerous to me. So if the movie's about anything, it would be about that. And so we just thought of her as sort of an avatar for that um,
Well,
sort of ideology.
Yeah, because see, one of the things that I hope a lot of people take notice of in the Victorian day, it would have been common for someone like Cecil to marry someone like Charlotte. That would have been normal. But what was even funnier is that when Cecil ends up in modern day, he actually embraced it. He changed his clothes, but then
Yeah.
Cecil got to be the person he really wanted to be and realized that it was okay in the modern day, where he was hiding that fact in the Victorian day. And you show that in
Yeah.
the film. Why was that important?
Yeah. It was very important because, I mean, there was a lot of, a lot of people trying to regress on gay rights, and, like this, the just even 50 years ago, somebody would have been in an institution or behind bars in England if they were out. And so I don't want us to go back to that. And if it was a lighthearted way of saying what once was regressive and repressive, if you put them in the modern time, even though things aren't perfect, you're going to flourish, you're going to thrive, you're allowed to be yourself, and he's going to embrace it. I mean, in many ways it's sort of a metaphor from the kids, like, who might grow up to the Midwest and come to California and, like, really go overboard in finding themselves. I'm an example of that. And so we just thought that would be really, like, fun, but also impactful.
Yeah, and it worked, and it was so seamless in the storytelling, especially with Cecil, that like I said, it just worked so
Thank you.
perfectly. And I know one of the actors in your film, Austin Basis, and
Oh, yeah.
I told Austin, I said, well, I said I'm going to be talking with Jonathan and Martin, so he sends his hellos. And he was so happy that he was in this short film. So he wanted me to tell you that.
He's
Thank
so
you. I
funny in
love
it.
him.
He's
Yeah,
so
he's
talented.
great. Yeah, yeah. There was another movie I was between this and another movie that he was going to be the lead in, and we went with, and that's much heavier. So we went with this. We do plan on circling back to that, but I was really really grateful. I'm like, could you just do this, like, small part and be really fun? And in fact, the friend I was saying about, who moved to Norway, was college best friends with him. So that's how I know him. So, he was there was a connection anyway.
Yeah.
And
No, go ahead,
I
Martin.
was going to say, fun fact, we're having our international premiere in Norway at the
Yeah,
Ravenheart International Film
yeah,
Festival. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, dude.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, this film, I think, for this film festival season, it's going to be making some waves. This is a film that a lot of people are going to be talking about, and you bring an element into this film. I'm not going to give it away because this is really the coolest twist in the film. I knew what it was because I have a background in health, so I knew when she says, I've got a remedy for Zach's headache, I went, no, there's no way they would do that. And you do. You do that. And it ends in the way that it usually ends in the 16th and the 17th century. So that's what made this so funny. How did you come up with the idea of, we'll just say, the remedy?
exactly what you said. Like what if this movie is going to be about anything? It's you hear people on TikTok and Instagram who are not medical professionals giving medical advice based on old information, and they're like, "Don't do that. That's dangerous." And so it's basically that's if we're going to be about something, it's let's not let's not romanticize the past, like I said. And so that I don't want to say too much, and that's why we do that. It's specifically as a commentary, and it was honestly the most organic way to end it. This is what is going to happen. If
Well,
somebody from the Victorian
what
era
was
comes
so
out the
cool and how it's like setting up the joke and then you have the punchline. And you did that in this film because the headache is mentioned 3 times.
yeah.
And at first, the audience is like, okay. The second time, all right. But then the third time, like, okay. And now Zach agrees, okay. Just, yeah, let's try your remedy. And so I love the way you did it so nonchalantly through this film. So it's like this little thread moving through the storyline, and then you just surprise the whole audience. So it was perfectly done. And so
Thank you.
at the film festival so far, what has been the audience's reaction to the film?
Well, we've only played one. We premiered at Cleveland, what, 2 weeks ago, and 2 weeks ago,
That's a big
and
one.
yeah, that was our number one choice to premiere. And so we only had one. It was a pretty full theater.
Yeah, big
I
theater.
heard a lot of. I was actually pretty nervous because it was my first time screening in front of an audience. So I don't know if I have the best memory, but I remember. I think when you I don't want to give it away, but you hear there was some gasps. I'll put it like that. Right? Would you say, Martin?
Yeah,
I think maybe
definitely. I mean,
you're more lucid than I was.
I honestly, there were. I try to temper my expectations. Going into a premiere like that with strangers seeing it for the first time. It's always nerve wracking, but I was really pleasantly surprised at how many laughs there were and how big the laughs were. It was really well received there, and I think the ending was a surprise twist indeed. And I had a lot of people coming up to me afterwards, saying how much they enjoyed it. So that's always like so fun. Part of the festival process is like meeting strangers who saw your work that you've been working on so hard, with your team of people, and hearing the response. So Cleveland is a wonderful festival. It's really, really excellent. And Paul Sloop, the shorts programmer there, has excellent taste. Maybe we're biased a little bit, but really, really a great selection of films there, and it's really well run. Highly, highly recommend for anyone in the area or just traveling to see a festival. It's a good one to go to.
Well, with a comedy and a comedy short, did people laugh at the right places? And did they
Yeah.
laugh at places that maybe you weren't expecting?
There was, to me, I remember one joke that I thought was like I was on the fence about that got the biggest laugh. So that was maybe the most big surprise. But yeah, I think we had workshopped it enough and given it to enough people with so many edits for feedback that I think we're expecting where they would laugh. I think, yeah, right, Martin?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, some jokes hit bigger than I expected, and some jokes
Yeah,
that I thought were the funniest weren't the biggest laugh. So it's just I
yeah.
think it's just going to depend on the audience. But yeah, generally like laughs throughout, honestly, and it was really fun to be in the audience for that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
my
Yeah.
guess would be that the audience needs to pay much closer attention to the dialogue, because if you listen really closely to the dialogue, there are some funny lines in there, because it's like what's the term? Um, Not dry comedy, where it's dry, but it's really maybe a little bit of sarcasm, and then some people don't catch it. To me, you got to pay attention to the dialogue because a lot of the secrets are revealed in the dialogue. And Cecil was the perfect character to use because there were things that he says that if you pay attention to, it leads in to other scenes in the film. The film is just a great short film. It's this dark comedy with a twist. You bring two eras together, which I think was done far better than a lot of these other films that want to play the past and the present together. But we need more comedies. And I am so happy that you created a comedic short because we don't see enough of those.
Thank you. Thank you. That, yeah, that's one of the things I've been going to a lot of film festivals, and I'm a screener for a bunch of film festivals, and that's one thing I've noticed. I'm like, I think what the world needs is something a little stupid and funny and silly, and it's there's a reason that like Oh Mary is like the big runaway play on Broadway right now. It's because people just we really need that, and I needed it when I made it, and so it's really gratifying to see that other people like right now in this time people need it and are wanting it and are grateful for it. So I'm just really happy that I can give that to people for like 15 minutes.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that more of the film festivals will pick this film up because
Me too.
I see the same themes every year where everything is going to be dramatic and dark and depressing and tense that we don't see enough of the comedic shorts break through all of that. And sometimes we don't even see enough horror. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and he won an Oscar, and he said, what we need to see is we need to see comedy and horror come together and to break out that genre a little bit more because there's even more to write about in that film genre that a lot of people are not tapping into. But at least you've tapped in to the comedic side of things and not what. And I would not say. No, I'm not going to say too much. I want everybody to see it because I don't want everybody. I want everybody to absorb the ending and the twist in this film like I did because you don't see it coming. And so it's the cherry on top when it comes to Fireflies in the Dusk.
Thank you.
So what's the future hold for the short film?
Well, we are we've been accepted to two festivals I can't tell you yet. I'm not even allowed to tell the cast. And one being Oscar qualifying, well, both being Oscar qualifying, and then I just found out like about 5 minutes ago we got into another festival, and we're still waiting to hear for the rest. Yeah.
Oh, well, fantastic. Well, I can't wait to see and hear that news when you're able to release it. So,
Yeah.
go
And
ahead, Martin.
the international premiere, as we said before, is coming up in June at Ravenheart in Oslo.
Yeah.
But that one
Yeah.
we can't announce. The other ones we can't.
We
And,
can't announce. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. The national ones I can't say.
Well,
I want to. I don't mean to be like cryptic.
No, I get it. No, I get it. I understand. I know how this system works. And is there any ideas or talks about taking this short film and maybe expanding it into something bigger?
Yeah, we have an overall concept if we wanted to make it into a feature length film, and we did also make it as to be actually be a pilot for um sort of like Martin said, like a dark comedy Black Mirror version because that's the way my brain works. That's crazy, wacky, inverting of genre type of things. And I hadn't really thought of it as being like expanding this particular story like to stream, but as you're saying that, I'm like, that may not be. It's not what I intended, but it may not be the worst idea. So there's yes. So the answer is yes.
Yeah,
And
because when I
hopefully this
look,
will lead to that.
yeah, because when I see something like this, there's so many backstories that can be created for character development. Because when people get caught, when people start watching a streaming series, and I hear someone goes, "Oh, episode 1 was slow," and I'm like, "But you don't understand what the first episodes are about. That's character development. Once you get through the
Yeah.
first episode, then you're going to understand and start catching on and binge watching all the other episodes." And a lot of them start out that way. Some of them can start out with a bang. But I love character development because there's so many stories to tell, and you can, release the mystery from episode to episode. And when I see Fireflies in the Dusk, I'm like, yeah, I could see this, anywhere from an 8 to a 13 episode series, because there's just so much to play with here. So one never knows, but both of you did an excellent job on this short film. And ladies and gentlemen, Fireflies in the Dusk is about Charlotte's mother, Edith, who forces her to marry the catty and the sarcastic Cecil. But Charlotte time travels from the Victorian era into the modern time to be with her beloved pen pal, Zachary. Unfortunately, Charlotte's plan goes awry when Cecil follows her through the time portal. For the rest of the film, you're just going to have to see it. Now, I've seen so many short films playing off of Pride and Prejudice or Downton Abbey, but Fireflies in the Dusk disrupts the prim and proper flair the right way with comedy, both hilarious and dark. Each character holds their own identity, which I love, as it makes you beg for more to see Fireflies in the Dusk become a streaming series or even a feature film, in my opinion, which would be a great thing since television today lacks originality. But I want to thank both of you, Jonathan and Martin, for sharing this incredible film with me today, and I can't wait to see what it does in this very busy film festival season.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for having us. This was so much fun.
Thank you so much.
You're very, very welcome. And I want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching and listening. Be sure to visit bondoncinema.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and our many audio channels if you don't have time to watch, but you sure can listen. And remember, catch our special interviews on the Prime show by the same name. And as for me, you're either going to see me at the movies or from the red carpet.